Just come home, Jody. Contact somebody. Let us know that you're okay.
I'm very worried because she hasn't contacted anyone as far as I know of. Me and her son really do want her to contact somebody or come home.
Her son needs her. He needs his mum. Sorry.
This is the moment a grandmother seemingly bears her pain to the world.
This is getting really bad.
Margaret Archer is grieving the loss of her son's fiancée, Jody Meyers, who's vanished without a trace.
Someone that's out there but knows anything to contact the police or Crime Stoppers.
There's no way she'd leave her son behind. I just knew something wasn't right. I was always worried. Always worried.
Well, if she is listening, I just want her to know that we all do love her and miss her dearly, and we would really like her to come home.
Jody's fiancé, Neil Archer, is upset too and pleads for the mother of their 2-year-old son to come home.
I wouldn't be the man I was today if I hadn't met her. So she's made me grow up quite a fair bit, especially like she's the first woman that I've actually had a long relationship with. She's given me a family, she's given me a beautiful son, and she gave me a beautiful partner in herself.
We miss her, we want her to come home.
Margaret and Neil know the nation is watching, wiping away the tears, playing the part well. But if you look a little closer, you'll see they're not real tears at all. It's just one big act.
That's quite interesting. She's actually wiping away imaginary tears. There's a classic example of crocodile tears.
The Archers join a long list of performers in their own twisted screenplay.
They are some of the best actors you'll never see on the silver screen.
I haven't harmed my wife or my daughter. I haven't harmed either of them.
They played the roles of concerned fiancé.
Me and her son really do want her to contact somebody or come home.
Grief-stricken mother. And a son desperate for answers.
All I can remember is hearing, the death of my father.
While all along they were the murderers who lied to the world and cried crocodile tears to cover up their crimes.
I've dealt with people that have encountered real grief, where they've come home and people have died in a fire or someone's been killed in a car accident. They're inconsolable. The last thing they want to do is go on television and give an interview about it all, by and large. Whereas these people, the crocodile tearers, they're falling over themselves to give an interview. Maybe they like being on TV.
Tonight, with the help of forensic psychologist Tim Watson-Munro and former FBI profiler and body language expert Steve Van Apren, we'll show you how to spot those lies and what makes these shameless murderers tick.
Sick person, really insane, I don't know.
Some of the cover-ups were very obvious. Others were very subtle, such as a shoulder shrug. You ask somebody a question they don't know, usually their eyebrows will go up, their shoulders will shrug, and the palms of the hands will face skywards. But sometimes these are so minute, so small, that it is missed by many people.
And you'll never find a more brazen or more callous pair than this mother and son, Margaret and Neil Archer.
Their relationship, Neil and Margaret's, how would you describe it?
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Very close. And I've encountered this over the decades where mothers of crooks really love their sons and they'll do anything to protect them. And crooks love their mothers and they'll do anything to protect them. So here you have a situation of a psychopathic son being protected by a psychopathic mother.
Margaret Archer is the mother of 4 boys, but her favourite has always been Neil. She raised them alone in Adelaide, before eventually settling in a housing estate in the small town of Baden, South Australia, not far from the Murray River.
What about Mum? Tell us about
Margaret?
Well, she did as good as she can raising 4 boys with all her fathers that left. She was pretty much our mum and our dad.
Aaron Archer is one of Margaret's 4 boys and Neil's younger brother.
Let's talk about Neil. What was he like growing up?
Well, he was just a standard brother. Like, we had all our scraps like general brothers do, a couple of punch-ups. We were as thick as thieves.
Is he crafty? Is he smart?
He's crafty, he's hands-on. He's no accountant or anything like that, but...
He's street smart?
Yes.
Yeah. And would that go for your mum too?
Mum is actually very smart. She actually graduated year 12 and everything, so...
Neil lived at home with Margaret until his mid-20s, before moving just up the road with his fiancée, Jody Meyers, and their son, Elijah. Jody was very close with her younger sister, Tanya, and Tanya's husband, Michael.
Always smiling, happy, loved life. Loved Elijah more than anything in the world. When she became a mum, it's made her so happy. She was such a great mum.
In your eyes, had she met the right person?
No, it was never willing to become a part of the family, to be someone that people relied on and could trust, and he was always sat a little bit off centre from everything, so there was concerns about him from day one.
Early on, Jody's mum, Lucy, also had her doubts about Neil.
Was she happy?
She made out to be, but I don't think she was, no.
What makes you say that?
Just, she said to me one day how she could finally see what Neil was trying to do, and that was like take her from the family.
So he was very controlling?
Yeah, very controlling.
Extremely controlling, to the point of where he always had access to her Facebook. She was not allowed to text certain people. She wasn't allowed to come and see people without him. He had to know where she was all the time. It's one of the most controlling relationships I've seen.
And the relationship had one other volatile ingredient: Neil's mum, Margaret.
Margaret was controlling over her boys. Like if she said jump, they'd say how high. Everything, yeah, she wanted the boys to do.
Did she rule with an iron fist?
Oh, she was strict, yes.
Didn't mess with mum?
No.
While Margaret was exceptionally close to Neil, and she doted on her grandson Elijah, she had little time for Jody, always siding with Neil when the couple were fighting, which was happening all the time.
Margaret often held Elijah inside if Neil and Jody had an argument, and she'd often lock Jody out and say, "You're not getting your son."
By early 2015, Jody had had enough of her fiancé and confided in her family that she was planning to leave Neil.
She'd made that decision?
Yeah.
She was going to leave him?
Yeah.
Neil suspected Jody wanted out, but he blamed her mother and sisters for pulling them apart.
He said to me, the family are trying to break me and Jody up.
They're trying to split us up.
Trying to get in between us and break us up. And I said, what choice do you have? I said, you either try and work through it and get through it, or you break up. I said, what else can you do? And straight out, there was no pause, there was nothing. With the coldest look on his face, he said to me, I'll kill her. I will kill her.
If she leaves me?
Yeah.
A year later, Jody leaves a party with Neil Archer. She's never seen again.
Happy birthday, dear Kate.
Jody Meyers has gone missing. She was last seen leaving a family birthday party with her controlling fiancé, Neil Archer.
Thank you so much. Love you all.
2 days later, her mum received a text message from Jody's phone.
I got a message, supposedly from Jody. saying that she's left Neil, she's gone with friends, she'll contact me. And I knew straight away from then that something wasn't right because there's no way she'd leave her son behind. Just none of it made sense. And there was no reply after I replied, where Jody'd usually always reply.
And there were like grammatical mistakes?
Yeah, spelling errors. And Jody was a pretty good speller, and if she did make a mistake, she'd repeat it, like retext the actual word. And a couple of days later, I showed my eldest daughter, and she went berserk, actually. She said, that's not, can't swear on TV, Jody, and that's when we went to the police station and reported her missing.
As police searched the town of Mannum and the banks of the Murray River for clues, Neil told anyone who'd listen that he'd been abandoned.
He's more interested in everything else.
Holding his young son Elijah, Neil fronted the cameras, begging Jody to come home.
We're all hoping she just needs some time for herself and hopefully returns later on safely.
Right there, I have a major problem with that. In all the years I've been analysing videos, very rarely do you see somebody smiling when they're talking about such a devastating event in their lives. That is a major red flag for me.
They like to be front page news and, you know, in some ways that's reinforcing the delusion. They perhaps think that if the press are buying it, other people are buying it, and they keep it going.
Neil's media blitz showed no signs of slowing. But right from the beginning, Detective Alex McLean and his team at the Major Crime Squad had serious doubts that Jody had run out on Neil. And central to the investigation was that text message, apparently sent by Jody after she disappeared.
There were little things. The grammar. The family was simply telling us that isn't Jody. There's no way.
But you didn't write that message? Or?
No. I can guarantee 100% I did not write that message.
Adding to the uncertainty was the discovery that Jody's ATM card had been used to withdraw $250 at this bank. Hours later, her phone was recharged with credits bought at this news agency.
I don't know who actually accessed the account. I'm hoping it was her or maybe one of her friends if she's asked them to do it for her. So hopefully that all works out and they do hopefully find something from that. So.
But once again, was it you using that account?
No.
By now, Neil and his mum appeared more and more confident, even cocky. They went so far as to tell investigators Jody left with a mystery couple in a red four-wheel drive.
The people that were there that night in the red four-wheel drive have gone there obviously to pick her up, which it didn't take them too long to get there, so they can't live too far from Mannum itself. But hopefully they're just helping her, like pretty much in a sense hiding her away so she can sort herself out in a sense.
Were they being cooperative?
They were being cooperative in the sense that they would always engage with us. They would always give the appearance of cooperation, when in fact all they were trying to do was cover their tracks, misdirect, and have the investigation team look at other people.
Based on information from the Archers, police searched up and down the river and the vast rolling hills and plains surrounding the town of Mannum. The Archers were more than happy to help.
Any information will help them, so more than happy to fill them in with all their inquiries and things like that.
But it was all a ruse, an act, a performance worthy of a Hollywood film.
Just for the record, I mean, did you kill Jody?
No, I did not. I would never harm her. She was
Stop.
the love of my life.
She was the love of my life, was talking past tense. Red flag, big red flag.
Was Neil Archer a good actor?
I think you'd look at some of the interviews and say, yes, he could look in a camera and he could tell a story with some conviction.
So you're not a murderer, you're not a killer?
No, I'm not. I've never harmed anyone in that way, so I would never harm anyone in that way.
20-year-old mum Jody Meyers hasn't been seen in several weeks. And Jody's fiancé Neil was making regular appearances on the nightly news.
If she is out there, I would appreciate or at least contact somebody. It doesn't have to be directly to me. It could be anybody, as long as she contacts someone to let us know that she is safe.
But his pleas didn't fool the police. They never let up, and slowly but surely they built a case. This CCTV footage of Neil and his mother Margaret was taken the day after Jody's disappearance. That's Neil leaning against the wall. Margaret's in a hoodie, using Jody's ATM card to withdraw $250, the last of the missing young mother's savings.
They'd been interviewed. They'd never mentioned withdrawing that money. They'd lied about it. That was one of the first and most significant tells, I suppose, in relation to what raised our suspicion.
More CCTV video then emerged, suggesting that Neil and Margaret were behind that text message sent from Jody's phone 2 days after she vanished.
We managed to pick up Neil and Margaret in Neil's green Ford, parking outside the Manham News Agency. We then get footage of Margaret going into Manham News Agency, and she buys a recharge voucher. She then leaves the news agency, goes and sits back outside in a car with Neil. The car stays there for 6 minutes. During that time, Jody's mobile service is recharged from the voucher she's just bought. The text message is sent, and a couple of minutes after the text message is sent, they drive away. There was only the two of them in the car when that phone was charged, when the credit was put on it, and that text message was sent. It was either one or both of them, and again, regardless of which, the other must have known what they were doing. They were both sat in the front seats.
Wow, another lie.
Yeah.
At the same time, Jody's family was becoming more and more suspicious of Neil and Margaret.
They wanted everyone to see that they'd done nothing wrong, yet everything they did pointed in the direction they had.
And what were we really saying?
Yeah, well, you're seeing someone trying to cover up one of the worst things you could possibly do.
They're not crazy. They don't see flying saucers. Jesus isn't telling them to do this, or whoever it may be. They know what they're doing, and they know the risks that they run. They know if they're caught, they will be going to jail. The delusion is they think they won't be caught because they think they're very clever, and invariably they're not that clever.
Weeks after Jody vanished, Margaret Archer's husband, Lawrence, who had nothing to do with the crime, innocently agreed to an interview.
We need her back really, really bad. Because Jody, I love you, everybody loves you. Come home, please.
Then Margaret yelled out from inside the house.
You don't go telling them anything. I've already told them to leave me alone.
Yeah, she just...
All right.
She
Thank
just
you for talking to us.
No, that's all right. She just
Now, if any of that is printed, I will be sued. No, I've had enough.
Despite her initial reluctance, Margaret eventually agreed to be interviewed.
What would you like to say?
I would like Jody to at least contact somebody, because this is getting really bad. We miss her. We want her to come home, or at least contact someone, someone that's out there knows anything, to contact the police or Crime Stoppers. Her son needs her. He needs his mum. Sorry.
Jody's sister and brother-in-law watched the charade unfold on TV. Even today, they're filled with disbelief.
What do you think, Tanya?
I just don't know how they could do that, knowing what they knew.
She was like a daughter to me. We spoke about
that concrete floor for Father's Day. It's a surprise for you. And even Lawrence himself said that just wasn't in his character. He was a lazy man. He wouldn't do something nice like that for Father's Day.
The suspicions police had from the start of the investigation were about to be confirmed. Under the mounting pressure, Neil cracked, telling everything to his brother, Aaron.
Mum was out the front having a smoke, and Neil got me in the hallway and he said he needed to speak to me, and he pulled me down to the laundry. And his first words to me were, "I killed her." And then he went to walk off, and I called him back. I asked him why. And he told me why. Jody was going to leave him and take Elijah. And then he went to walk off again, and I called him back and asked him how. And he told me he strangled her. And then I asked him where she was. And that's when the big bombshell happened, that he told me that she was under the shed. And he asked what he should do. And I'm like, well, you need to turn yourself in.
Tell me about the look on his face when he told you.
His eyes were black, like nothing there. It was scary. It scared the shit out of me.
Aaron told police what his brother had said. And soon after, a team of detectives arrived at the house. Jody Meyers' body was discovered in a shallow grave under the freshly laid concrete slab.
Now, I want to show you where it all happened. So, Neil Archer and his mother did those TV interviews just here, telling the world how much they missed their beautiful Jody. All the while, her lifeless body was lying in a shallow grave under a layer of cement less than 10 metres away, out the back of the house. The sheer audacity of it is just breathtaking.
Even more shocking, Neil and Margaret bought the cement using the cash they'd withdrawn from Jody's bank account the day after she disappeared.
It's the lowest act. They couldn't even use their own money to go and do what they needed to do.
Neil was charged with murder. He'd strangled Jody to death with a cord from this hoodie he wore during one of his TV interviews. Margaret Archer was charged with helping her son cover up Jody's murder. But she's always maintained she had nothing to do with the murder itself.
It's just unbelievable for us to accept that she didn't know what was going on.
Do you think she was more involved in what she's saying?
Yes.
I'll go straight out and say I reckon his mum helped him. I reckon Margaret was involved from when Jody was still alive, not afterwards.
Saw that big sigh, you said? It's almost like a sigh of relief. Absolutely no emotion, devoid of any emotion. It was very robotic, very mechanical, cold-hearted killer.
They think they can get away with murder, and they're so confident they won't be caught
About 20, so.
that they serve up lie after lie for the camera.
I mean, she was a very frail condition. I just can't understand why anyone would do this.
But all it takes is a mistimed gesture, an odd expression, or a poorly chosen word. And experts like Steve Van Apren can spot their guilt a mile away.
What's their response? Are they defensive? Are they angry? Are they sidestepping the issue? Are there non-verbal cues indicative of frustration, annoyance, anger, and so on?
Steve is a body language expert and former FBI profiler. He's built a career spotting the fakes and the frauds. And tonight, he's letting us in on some of his secrets.
Steve, we're in the control room and we're going to show you some examples of murderers who cry crocodile tears to cover up their crimes.
Absolutely, and we're going to peel layer by layer by layer until they're exposed.
Mick Martin played up to the cameras. casting himself as the victim of a violent crime.
We would just love these people to be caught so we can move on with our life.
But he was convicted of killing his father with a samurai sword, then tying himself up to make it look like a home invasion.
All I can remember is hearing, the death of my father. It was just terrifying. I'd never expected that I'd see my wife or children again.
Now, right there, I heard my father die. Where's the emotion? Where's the hurt? Where's the feelings?
Yeah, this is his father.
His father, yeah.
Has been murdered.
I don't see remorse, I don't see empathy, I don't see concern, I don't see emotion. I see none of it.
Then there's Christy Abrams from Sydney. Now she put on a real show.
Has anyone has seen her? Can they please contact the police? I can't talk.
As it turns out, this seemingly heartbroken mum killed her 6-year-old daughter, Kaisha, and shoved her broken body in a suitcase.
How do you rate her emotion?
It's staged. It's like a method actor.
Yeah.
Think about something sad, which in this case, I believe probably the reason she's crying is because of what she's done and the ramifications of what she's done. And she's drawing on that to produce those tears.
John Sharp played up to the cameras as well.
I haven't harmed my wife or my daughter. I haven't harmed either of them.
In reality, the man dubbed the Mornington Monster killed his wife and young daughter with a spear gun.
And there's not one skerrick of moisture in those eyes, is there?
No, and we see that, over and over and over again. It's just not convincing. It doesn't look authentic. It doesn't look real, and there's not that emotion associated with absolute sorrow.
Jared Bayden-Clay is another brutal wife killer.
I'm trying to look after my children at the moment. They've got 3 young girls, and we really trust that the police are doing everything they can to find my wife, and we just hope that she'll come home soon.
One of the things that concerns me, he says, I'm trying to look after my children. What I'd expect him to say is, I'm trying to look after our children.
How do you spot a lie?
So we look at 3 categories in particular, and that is verbal. I can lie with words, but often my body language is much more overt. So I focus so much on the delivery of the content and structure of the story that I often pay very little attention to what my body language is doing. So I need to look for conflict or contradiction between what a person is saying and what their body language is in fact stating. Secondly, I need to look at how that message is delivered, and that's what we call Parrot Linguistics. And that could be tone, pitch, voice modulation, response latencies, ums and ahs, superfluous fillers, and so on. And thirdly, I look for, does the person include themselves in the narrative of their explanation, or do they exclude themselves? I look for, whether or not a deceptive person is taking ownership or creating distance, disassociation and separation.
For his brutal crime in this quiet riverside town, Neil Archer was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 22 years, while Margaret Archer was sentenced to 6 years and, with time served, could be out later this year. Jody's family has planted a memorial tree for her on the banks of the Murray River. Here, family and friends remember the Jody they loved, the beautiful sister, the loving daughter. Jody's son, Elijah, now lives with his grandmother, Lucy, and misses his mum every day.
And what do you tell him about his mum?
We bought him a bike for Christmas, and he went and picked up his photo inside, Mum's photo, took it out into the shed, showed her the bike, and then sat it on the table while he rode it so she could watch him ride the bike. He sees stars at night and he goes, oh, there's my mum. Like, he loves his mum, kisses his mum's photo. He adores and really does miss his mum.
Good.
And we'll always keep her alive in his heart.